Hello and welcome to my 17th video lesson in using Blender 2.6. Today we're going to be talking about camera tracking. Now what can we use camera tracking for? Well, camera tracking is a new feature of Blender 2.61. In Blender 2.6 it hadn't been added yet, so for this you're going to need to be using Blender 2.61 or newer. I'm going to be using a piece of footage that I shot last summer in my backyard at the time. And this is going to serve as our background plate for our 3D composite. We're going to be doing a composite today, in which we'll be adding a 3D object into this video that I shot. So we're going to have to do this in two steps. We're going to first take this video file and make it into a folder of Jpegs, because Blender works better when it's working with Jpegs rather than working with a large video file. Now the video file that we're working with, I shot with a Canon Rebel T3i, and it's a full high definition video running at 24 frames per second. I can check this out by right-clicking on the video file and going to Properties and clicking on Details, and this tells me details or the information I need to know about the movie. The video is 26 seconds long. It's 1920 by 1088. I'm not sure why it's 1088 and not 1080, but there you go. And it's 23. It should be 24 frames per second. I'm not quite sure. I believe this information. And there's the audio information, which we don't really need to worry about right now. So we're going to make sure that our Blender file matches this. I'm going to go over here to my Properties window. And under the Render tab, if we go to Dimensions, we can figure out how big our movie, or we can set how big our movie should be. It's going to be 1920 by 1080, which is correct, but we don't want it to scale down to 50% of the size. We want to keep it at 100%, so we'll drag it up to 100. It's at 24 frames per second right now, which is the correct frame rate. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the video editor window, and the video editor window is called the video sequence editor. It's not the video or the movie clip editor, it's called the video sequence editor. And when you turn to this, you'll actually kind of recognize this if you're used to working in any other video editor, like iMovie or Final Cut Pro or Sony Vegas or Adobe Premiere. This is a timeline for video clips and audio clips. We can get a video window up as well if we go down to the checkerboard or the checkerboard with the timeline. Right now it's on just the video clip sequence editor or timeline. That's just a video clip window, but we can have both, kind of like a video editor would be in a separate program. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Add, and we're going to add a movie. So I'm going to go to my desktop, find that movie file, and press Add Movie Strip. It adds two, one for video, one for audio. I believe the green one is audio, so I'm going to go ahead and press Delete. And I'll right-click that one, and we're going to move it down to the frame, or the first frame in the movie. So I'm going to press G to grab, and we'll move it. Doesn't matter what layer it's on, really. And I'll move it down to frame 1. And there's the video. It's cut off the top and the bottom, but I can always zoom out by scrolling down on my mouse. What I'll actually do is I'll move this kind of timeline down, and then I'll unsquish it by dragging that. There we go. And it's much longer than what I want. I don't want to use the entire thing for the sake of this video. So I'm going to go ahead and change my end time in my timeline. And if you don't have a timeline, you can just go ahead and add one. I'm going to go to frame 100. We'll just do 100 frames. So we're starting at frame 1. We'll go to frame 100. So I'm going to go ahead and render that out. Now because we're working with a full high definition video, and because I'm running screen capture software, I'm actually going to shrink the video down a little bit. If you're familiar with TVs, you'll know that the top line of TVs, or the standard for high def, is 1920 by 1080, which is called 1080p. But I'm going to change it to the next level down, which is 720p. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 1280 by 720 and 100%. That's fine. And I'll leave it at 24 frames per second. So 720p isn't the highest definition, but it's still pretty good. So I'm going to work with that. I want to export to a folder of JPEGs, so I'm going to go down to the output section. Maybe I'll just collapse the dimensions. And I'm going to change it from a PNG output type to a JPEG output type. And we're not going to output to my temp folder, which is the default. I'm going to output to a new folder on my desktop. So I'm going to go to my desktop, and we're going to make a new folder. So if you don't know how to make a new folder in this kind of save dialog box, you can just press create new directory, and of course directory means folder, and I'll press OK. And I'm going to type in backyard images, sure. And I'm going to go inside that folder, and now I'll just press accept. And because I'm not typing anything in here, it'll just name all the JPEGs 0001, 0002, 0003, etc. So I'll go ahead and press accept. And we are going from frame 100 or 1 to 100. So I'll press animation, and it will render out all of my frames. Frame 100, we've finished rendering all the frames, so I'm going to go ahead and close this project without saving. We don't need it anymore. And we now have a folder called by_images, and this holds all of my JPEG files. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into Blender, and we'll start tracking this so we can actually camera match the movement in that video in Blender. So first thing to do is match the dimensions and the frame rate that we just made all those JPEGs with. So, whoopsie daisy. I'm going to change my resolution in my render tab to 1280 by 720. And if you go ahead and use my images, you should do that as well. And change it from 50/50 to 100%. And 24 frames per second is okay. So now we're going to do most of the tracking in a new window, which is called the movie clip editor. This is where we do most of the tracking of our video. So let's go ahead and bring in that video. I'm going to press open, and we'll find that folder. So I'm going to go to desktop and by_images, and I'll just select 0001.jpg, the first image, excuse me, and press open clip. And if I scroll through my timeline, it'll act just like a video. Now it's only 100 frames, so I'm going to go ahead and press end and type in 100, and then kind of zoom in by scrolling up on my timeline. There we go. Make that a little bit bigger. Okay, there's the video. And now, as you can see, as I kind of scrub through in this movie clip editor window, what is it called again? It's called the movie clip editor. As you scrub through, there is a blue bar, and you'll notice that some of it turns lighter blue. And it turns lighter blue after you've looked at that frame. And that's the cache that Blender is using. It's actually the RAM of your computer. It's the very fast memory in your computer for Blender to load whatever frames that it's most likely to access. Now, it can't right now hold all of the frames of the movie in RAM, which is going to slow down the process quite a bit. You'll notice that as I scrub through, new frames that I've just looked at turn light blue, and ones I haven't looked at in a little while turn darker blue, so they're not in cache anymore. We're going to go ahead and turn the amount of cache, or the amount of available RAM, up before we go any further. So I'm going to go to File and User Preferences. There we go. And if we go to System, we can look down at the bottom for Memory Cache Limit. Now right now it's at 128, which means I believe 128 megabytes of RAM. Yeah, megabytes. So I'll just click that, and I'm going to type in 1024, which I believe is the highest amount that it will let me. If I type in higher than that, oh, actually it will. I'm going to press 2000. No. Well, actually, let me do 2000. Oh, well. Maybe it is because I'm using the 64-bit version of Windows or Blender. If you're using the 32-bit version of Blender, I believe it'll only let you go up to 1024. So I'll just leave it at 1024 for those of you using a 32-bit operating system and Blender. I'm going to close this window. I'm not going to press save as default. I'll just close the window. And now if I scrub through, you'll notice that I can probably get all of my frames loaded into RAM. In fact, I can just press play. Is it actually going to do it for me? No, it's not going to do it for me because that's not actually my timeline. I can just scrub through, and it will kind of fill up my entire cache with all the frames, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay, so to track this video, in other words, to make the Blender's camera in my 3D window, so I'm going to go ahead and make my 3D window. We want to make this camera match the camera TN, match the camera that shot this video. And to do that, we're going to have to track a bunch of points in this video. In other words, we'll probably pick this pebble and that little white dot, and any really kind of standout points like that yellow dandelion, and any other point that we can find in this video. And if we track enough of them, Blender can actually figure out how the camera that shot this video is moving. This is actually quite a tricky thing to do, and it's quite error prone, so I'll try to go through it as well as I can. I'm going to get rid of this window. There we go. And we're going to start tracking. So I need to have both of my side panels up in this. I got rid of them before by pressing T and N, so I'll go ahead and press T and N again, T and N. And we're going to add a tracker. Now when you add a tracker, it's fairly easy to do. You can either press under marker, add marker and move, or you can just press Control and then left click. There we go. That's a marker, and I clicked it onto that white pebble, and I did that on purposely, because if I try to track, in other words, follow this point, well, let's say if I picked a point in the middle of a gray area, if I wanted Blender to go through the entire movie and track that point, it probably wouldn't do a very good job. In fact, I know it wouldn't, because there's no really kind of defining characteristics of that point for it to look for. So I'm going to find a point that Blender can kind of easily look at and remember and recognize compared to all the areas around it. That white pebble will work really well because there isn't any white around it too much, and it has a little dark area, so it's quite contrasty compared to the areas right around it. So we're going to go ahead and track that square throughout the other 100 frames of this movie. Now you'll notice it doesn't happen automatically. That point is not following that, but it will as soon as we track. So, go back to frame 1. If you go to frame 0, that can get confusing. It'll show nothing and you'll wonder why nothing is showing up. So just go to frame 1 and it'll come back. So we're going to put the tracker directly on the pebble. I'll press G just to kind of adjust it. There we go. And if we go to our left panel, and under track, if we press play, it'll go through every frame and try to find that same pebble or what's in that square, in that box. Now it's going to kind of search around that box for a similar looking pebble in every frame, and it'll move that box in the video depending on where that pebble is in every frame. If we go in the right panel under display, if I check search, it'll show me the search box that it'll work within. So I might want to leave this up because I know that if my camera moves more than this amount or that amount, and the pebble is outside of that box, it won't be able to find it. Let's say that my camera was moving very quickly, and I did a kind of a very quick pan from left to right. I would need to make this box bigger in order for it to be able to find the pebble in each next frame. But that will make your tracking slower. So I'm just going to kind of leave it at the original size. So I'll scale it down a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to press play with my playhead at frame number 1. Let's see what happens. So what that was is it actually went through the video and it tried to do its best to track what it thinks is that pebble. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, it messed up right towards the very end. And I could tell that because when I saw it at frame 100, the tracking point was at another white area, kind of right near the pebble. So it got confused somewhere along the line. And because I've already tracked this video before I made this tutorial, I know that it's at frame 95. Up until frame 94, everything is correct, or everything should be correct if it worked the same as last time. Yep, if I scrub through my video, I can see that the pebble is in that window, and it's doing a pretty good job of staying exactly on that pebble. But once we get to frame 95, it kind of jumps, and we don't want that to happen. We want it to stay exactly on that pebble. So go back to frame 94, and we're going to start manually tracking. If you have a long video and you're tracking a lot of different points, which we will be doing, you will spend a lot of time tracking different points in your movie and fixing all the paths in your track data. So I'm going to go ahead and press the next frame button. Let's see what happens when it tries again, but we're doing it manually. It jumped over to that white speck again. So I'm going to fix this frame by pressing G and putting it where it should be, right about there. Now I'm going to make sure that I did that well by pressing my left arrow key on my keyboard. And that was okay. Maybe I should move it a little bit down, I think, right about there. Let's see if that's about right. Sure. Now I'll press next, and let's see what happens. Ah, it fixed it. So let's see if I can press just next, and next, and next, and next, and next. And I think that's right. So now we have 100 frames of correctly tracked Pebble. Let's go ahead and save this file. Save as. So I'm going to save this on my desktop as backyard01.blend. So let's save that. And let's pick another point to track. And I'm going to purposely pick a point that's going to go off the video. I'm going to pick that first spot right there on the back fence. Not that one, but that one. And you'll notice that when I go through my video, it's actually going to go outside of the frame of the video. Then it's going to come back in. So I'm doing this point specifically because I want you to be able to see what happens or how to do or how to deal with that in your videos. Because you want to track points on not just the ground in your scene, but on lots of different surfaces. That will help get a better track or camera solve for your video. It'll actually help it be more accurate. So I'm going to go ahead and press Control-click or Add Marker and Move and select that point. I might make this box a little bit smaller to hug that little spot more closely. And I'm going to make the search box a little bit smaller too. Yeah, that should be okay right about there. And because I positioned that on frame 40, I should have done it on frame 1. I can actually track backwards. That'll work too. So I'm going to go ahead and track backwards and let's see what happens. Did that work? It did. It just happened really quick. You'll notice that that yellow bar is now full up until that frame 40 where I started. So that it looks like a pretty good track. If my computer can catch up. Let's go back to frame 40. Actually frame 39, I believe. And let's track from that point onwards. So let's track in the normal direction. It got to frame 43, and it got confused. Let's take a look. Frame 43 is wrong. So I'll go ahead and press G and position it correctly. And I'll start going manually. I got confused again. So I'll press G and position it correctly. And let's just keep going manually. I did it good that time. And is that one correct? No, it's not. It's this one. Let's put it right about there. Let's just kind of go back and see what's happening with our frames. No, so that one is okay. And then it goes out of the screen. So you'll notice that it kind of goes, it's going to go up and then off the screen. So what I'm going to do is go to that frame, the first frame where it's no longer there. And we're going to disable, we need to disable this tracker for the frames that it is off the edge of the screen. So I'm going to scroll down with that marker selected by right-clicking on it and go into the marker. And we need to uncheck enable. Now it's already unchecked, and that's because Blender is quite smart. They made this quite well. If I scrub back to a frame where it is in the frame, you'll notice that it is enabled. But Blender was smart enough to know that it's no longer there. And so this marker, this tracker is disabled. If I keep on going though, and find the first frame where that comes back into the frame entirely, so there it is on frame 54. Maybe it's 53 as well. Yeah, sure, let's go with 53. We want to enable this tracker again. So I can do that. I can just press enabled, and it'll still be disabled between frame 46 and then, but it'll turn back on. So we can turn a tracker on and off if the point that we're tracking goes off the edge of the screen. So on frame 53, I'll move the point back to where it should be, if my computer lets me. There we go. And I'm going to track manually for a few frames. It did not find it, so I will enable it and move it back. And we'll go manually again. It found it. Okay. So I'm just going to go through it manually, I think, this time. I could press play, but it's floating around the edge of the screen, so I'm just going to do it manually. Is that correct? Yeah, it kind of went back down again. Okay. And it should be disabled from then on, I think. Let's kind of scrub through. And yeah. So that is a complete track. It's not in the video from frame 46 to frame 52. And it's not in the video from frame 71 onwards. So those frames will not have a yellow bar in it. Other than that, that is a correct track. Now I'm going to come back in the next video with at least 10 or 12 or 15 more points tracked successfully, and I will see you then. The frames for this video will be in a link in the description for you to download. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.